Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at episode 2 of season 2 of Bungou Stray Dogs, or episode 14, I believe, if you look at it from the chronological sense. But anyways, this was a very, very solid episode. Very solid. We get a lot of background story for more of these characters that we're now being introduced to, like Oda and Ango, and also we see, I think, darker side of Dazai at one point too, as well as we finally learn a little bit more about the organization known as the Mimics. So that's pretty cool. Now, I'll say this right now: the beginning of this episode is very slow paced in the sense that we see a little bit about Oda's background story. We see how apparently, he goes to this one place where a bunch of kids are there, and we don't really know about these kids too much. We know that they're not belonging to this guy who's taking care of them, but more so they live here nonetheless. So that's very interesting. I'm almost thinking that these kids most likely are really something part of Oda's life in terms of maybe like other psychic users or other power users, stuff like that. So I'm very curious about what their story is. Now, Dazai goes to meet Oda at this little restaurant, and he begins telling him about what he's going to plan on doing against the organization that's against them right now. And what he says is that he has set up a various big trap for them. And what we see from there is then this trap activates quickly, where apparently the mimics go and try to raid this place. It looks like a casino of some sort, and they look for a secret passage of some item, and apparently there's nothing there. The place gets locked down, and then we see gas shooting everywhere, which is sleeping gas. But we also see something very interesting. I apologize if you hear my phone go off. You probably hear that again going off, but because I left alarms on. It's really unprofessional sometimes, I swear to God. But anyways, what's funny though is that we see something interesting during that sleeping gas moment where we see someone pull a gun out and then shoot some people. So I was very interested about that. I think there's something going on behind the scenes of this. But we see a little bit more about Ango's background story and how all three of these guys met. We see that apparently Ango used to be just a kind of guy who worked in a small office where he would write down letters of people who died and stuff like that to keep information, like almost just, I guess, a log of death essentially. But one thing he did that pissed the head up, pissed the boss off, I should say, is that he would write down the death. They would also write down like various things about their background and stuff like that. And they asked him, "Why do you do that? I mean, that seems like so much longer of a thing. It takes so much longer than just writing down the number of the person who was in the organization that died, etc." And he goes, "I did that because you have to realize who death affects. You have to realize that death is not just a singular thing. It's more complicated. This person had a life, etc., etc." So we see that Ango apparently does care about people. That's something that's very important, I think, in the further story. I'm gonna presume that's gonna be something big for his character later on. Now, we see Dazai getting really pissed off because all of the captured troops are dead, and he's like, "What the hell happened? Why are they all dead?" And then we see an old face, Akagawa. We see him show up. Yeah, if you guys remember him. This is clearly when he was less powerful. I'll say that right now. Well, and I'll explain in a second why that is. But apparently he comes in and he had to take care of a few of the troops because one of them woke up and pulled a gun out and started shooting them. So what he did is he eliminated him, but unfortunately also went chaotic and probably did some more damage than he should have did. And what's interesting though, what's very interesting about this is that we see what happens next. We see Dazai punch Akagawa really hard in the face. And, it was a very dark scene that follows where we see Dazai with the creepiest face. I might have the image. I might have it as a thumbnail. So I'm not sure yet entirely, but it's really dependent on what I use as thumbnail for this episode. But we see Dazai, standing over him, going, "Listen, I'm gonna show you that you have to obey me. You have to obey the mafia." And he shoots him 3 times. But luckily, Akagawa, if you've seen, of course, the first season, which I'm presuming you have. I don't know why you watch the second season without seeing the first season. I mean, I know some people who do that, which is very strange, but there are people who do that, surprisingly enough. But when he pulls the gun out and starts shooting him, he's actually able to block the bullets using his power that he has, that weird creature that he could summon. And apparently that's the first time he's ever been able to do that. Like, he's never been able to use it defensively up to that point. So this is clearly when he was weaker in the organization. This is when he first started. So I think that's really interesting. Because we did get some of the background story about that before, like him and Dazai in the first season, but we didn't get a lot of it. And this is just kind of a little bit more showing everything. Now, I also find very interesting too about this sequence is that we also hear about Oda apparently being very powerful. And we have not seen really Oda do anything that's, I guess, alter, like a supernatural, or I should say, like it doesn't really alter anything that happens around him so far. We know about his power, the flawless, which can let him see a few seconds of the future, but it hasn't been anything that's been that impressive yet. And though Dazai's telling him, like telling everyone there, that he can kill every single person in that room, including himself, because if he's really that pissed off, he could do that without even having to pull out his gun. So I'm almost thinking, does Oda have some other secret power that we don't know of? Is he really just that powerful, or does he mean that in a metaphorical sense, that he would just be willing to stop everything and kill whoever he has to kill if he had to? I find that funny. Now, we do have Oda all of a sudden answer his phone at one point, and we hear that Dazai has found out where Ango is, and he goes to the hideout and finds him wrapped up in wire, of course. He also finds out apparently that there are bombs set up in the whole facility, but not before him telling Oda that apparently he has been a spy working for the mimics. So here's the thing, and then he goes, but it's not that simple. So more so, he works for the Port Mafia. So this is Ango we're talking about here. Ango works for the Port Mafia. However, he works as a spy for them. So he goes to the mimics and acts like he's spying on the Port Mafia. So it's a double spy, which is interesting, and I always like that in stories because I always think that's so confusing, but yet so cool, because the concept of just being back and forth, like it almost messes with your mind if you think about it, because you're trying to think like, so wait, which side is he really working for? You can never tell that with double spies. You have to be very careful with that. And it's funny I say that because I was thinking that in my head that he might still be a spy of some sort, but we aren't given that much more detail about that. Now, we do also, though, learn a little bit more about the mimics, where the mimics apparently are a group of soldiers that are from previous wars that just keep wanting to go into war. They don't want to do anything but kill. And the episode also kind of goes forward with, a little tiny ball that appears on the ground, and Oda picks it up and right away realizes his mistake when his power activates, showing him a glimpse of the future, which is his hand being poisoned. But at this point he already picked it up, so he's already going to get poisoned. We find out that the flawless ability is not flawless. I mean, it's ironic that it's called that, but it shows him a future that's going to happen, but that does not prevent anything from already happening. So that because he's already being poisoned by the ball, even though he sees that he's going to be poisoned by it, it's already the process of happening. So it's kind of ironic in a way. But we see him telling Ango to run, but a whole bunch of soldiers come out of the woodworks over there, and he tells them, no, don't worry, listen, I'm so thankful you saved me, but I have to do what I have to do, and he runs with the soldier group off into the distance. So I think that is very interesting. Now, I think it's also very interesting that we still see at the very end that these three were friends. They had some weird introduction, to be sure, but they are still friends. They still care for each other greatly. And, we see in the past when they were talking at the bar and stuff like that about how they can't pick up women even if they tried. I think that's interesting because Dazai is a ladies' man now. So I wonder if in the past he wasn't a ladies' man. I mean, if we're going off of the original concept of Dazai, that kind of makes sense to a way. But I think that's interesting. Overall, this is a long review, but I really dig this episode. Bungou Stray Dogs right now to me is doing something that I see being the better show of the season so far, because honestly I like everything about it. I like the pacing of it. I like this episode. Overall it's really, really great episode. I think that the way they're showing the kind of past is interesting, because I wonder how many episodes this could be for. I mean, this is I believe there's only going to be 12 more episodes of the series, at least, and they're spending already 2 on this background, so we're gonna probably get a third one for next week. How many are actually going to focus on the current? That's interesting. I'm really interested about that. Anyways, guys and girls, hey, if you liked this episode, please leave in the comments. Tell me what you thought about the episode. Did they do a good job? Did they do a bad job, etc.? As always, if you like these videos, hey, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, share the video. Almost at 600 subscribers, so that's awesome. I want to see if I can get to 600 by the end of the month. That'd be freaking amazing. But anyways, I will talk to you later. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.